The Nobel Prize in 2016 was by this Japanese professor, and he discovered this concept called autophagy. Let me just explain a little bit about autophagy using an analogy of an old or a brand new car. There's no doubt you would much rather buy a brand new car. All the parts are new, they're not worn. You know when you start it's going to run, it's reliable, you can go faster, it gets better gas mileage, it just runs better, it smells better, it looks better, it's cleaner, right? And then over time, those engine parts wear out, the wheel bearings wear out, the upholstery wears out. And you just hope that someday when you go in to start the car, that it doesn't fail. That's the worst thing, especially if you were like on a 500-mile trip vacation away from home and you went in to start it, you could hear it cranking, but it didn't start. Oh no, what would happen? Well, you'd get it towed, go to a auto repair shop. The mechanic would get in there and you would hope that it wasn't really too bad. Maybe just a water pump went out. Maybe a $150 repair versus the mechanic giving you the death now. Ma'am, your transmission is shot. That's gonna be $3,500. Bam! That's the worst thing. Those engine parts get worn out over time. And unlike the human body, and a car can't replace their parts unless the mechanic gets in there, but the human body can. This is where autophagy comes in. Autophagy, what it is, it's the recycling of old, worn out cellular body parts. In other words, when there's not enough energy inside the body recycles, it gets rid of those diseased, cancerous cells, and it's replaced with new cells. That's what autophagy is. Let's talk about what stops autophagy, because you want autophagy when I'll explain this in just a moment. Just like the reason you want autophagy to happen inside your body is the exact same reason you'd want autophagy to be inside your car. If it was natural, that the water pump would repair itself just naturally. When it was worn out to a certain degree, the miraculous car manufacturer, the water pump would just disintegrate and come back into a brand new water pump. And then that car would be new forever. That's what autophagy is. When there's a lot of stored energy in our body, when three things are really high in our body, autophagy stops, meaning that water pump's gonna wear out. Meaning those cells are gonna get diseased, they're gonna get cancerous. According to Dr. Jason Fung, the lack of autophagy in the body is one of the leading causes of aging. That makes sense, right? Your car gets old and aged because those parts wear out. Same with us, but when you have autophagy going on in your body, where you're recycling all these disease worn out cells, and they're replaced with brand new cells, brand new water pump, your body stays young longer. But what stops autophagy? Glucose. High levels of eating carbohydrates. High glucose. High insulin. To the point where it's even higher than normal. Insulinemia. Insulin causes a stoppage of autophagy. Excess protein in your body. In fact, 3 grams of leucine stops autophagy in its track. You want to know why Americans are aging and having illnesses? Because glucose is high, insulin is high, they eat way too much protein, and so there's not a recycling going on of these body parts. On the flip side, what keeps autophagy active? What keeps it in high gear? The opposite of high glucose, high insulin, high protein is fasting. Fasting, going without, or intermittent fasting. or a ketogenic diet where you're lowering glucose, you're lowering insulin, you're lowering the amount of protein in your body. Then those diseased, old, worn out parts that cause heart disease, cancer, strokes, diabetes, all that stuff, they get, because you're lowering the energy level, glucose, insulin, protein, then those old parts can die off and replaced with new parts. I know when I started intermittent fasting and a ketogenic diet, so I was addressing lowering insulin, lowering glucose, and lowering my protein intake. I never felt better in my life. I just feel like a brand new, renewed person. When I used to train for the Ironman, I would suck down a ton of carbohydrate drink. A little bit of protein, hardly any fats in my diet, so my insulin level was always high. My glucose level was always high in my body. And when I would do a hard routine, you get sore. I would say sore for days. In other words, those old disease worn out muscle cells weren't being replaced. But when I went and started intermittent fasting, and fasting in general, going without food, I've done a couple 4-day fast, 4 days, figure it out. Once a month, I do a 60-hour fast. And seriously, I never felt better in my entire life. I'm 62 years old. I don't ache. I do these hard routines where I push in as hard as I can, and I'm like dying. I'm glad when they're over. And then within like 18 hours, I'm not sore anymore. Seriously, why? Because I'm always in that constant state of autophagy. I'm removing the old worn out water pump. I'm removing the old worn out transmission with a brand new one. That's what autophagy is. Hope that helped. You guys take care. See ya.